Okay. What was I trying to do here? Boom, this one. Anyway, so hopefully StreamYard does not crash today. Definitely prefer StreamYard over hosting it myself, just because I feel like the delay is not there with StreamYard. Okay, so we're good. Someone is here. Don't know who that is, but hello. Okay. Okay. Hello. So today I'm not as far behind as I was yesterday. So this morning I woke up, I went on a walk, and I got in a fair amount, at least 50 pages, I want to say. Maybe a little bit more because I'm on page 440 now. And I ended yesterday's stream at 365, I want to say. 364, somewhere around there. Hello. So got closer to where I was supposed to end yesterday. I was supposed to get to page 480. Yeah, 480 yesterday. So hopefully today during the stream, I'll be able to get to page 480. And then by today, I'm supposed to get to page 680 so that tomorrow I'll be able to finish it. Which would be nice. It would be nice. So, happy to hear that you are also almost done with your book. Okay. We're not going to set that over there anymore, which means we get to have my mouse on screen. So my mouse pad will just be flipped over because it's gross and disgusting. But yes, hooray. I'm happy that you two are almost done with yours. As for my thoughts on the section that I read today, it wasn't a lot. Not a lot happened. There was like a bantery scene, I think, that was supposed to continue to drive tension between Bryce and Hunt. I don't like Hunt. I think that Hunt is a terrible character. I don't understand the appeal of him. I don't mess with that man. I don't recognize him. I do not know him. Nothing that Sarah J. Maas could ever write would make me appreciate him. So he's just out of luck. As for Bryce, I still don't care about her. I still don't understand why she's involved in this investigation. I don't get it. I don't understand. I just don't. Rune had a brief moment with an unnamed meta witch, but I feel like that she should be important later on in the story. If that meta witch that he talked to is not important later on in the story, then I feel like him remarking that he didn't catch her name would be a little silly. Because I'm 56% of the way through, I think is what Goodreads says, I'm still not trusting that the person that they're saying is the culprit is actually going to be revealed to be the culprit. In my mind, there's still room there to play with like a red herring situation. I'm not invested in this investigation. I don't think that Sarah J. Maas is really crafting a narrative that she's not crafting a narrative where the reader is meant to be able to guess along. So I'm not even trying. I'm not trying to figure out who did it. I'm just trying to appreciate that narrative arc, even though I don't like it. So that's where I'm at with mine reading of the book. I will say that now that I'm 400 pages in, it's a little bit better in terms of, like, I guess I'm kind of invested now, even though the only character I've ever cared about died like 300 pages ago at this point. I'm also really confused about some characterizations that were happening because we got to meet Connor's brother in this section of the book. And I don't know. There was something about that dynamic that I wasn't entirely sold on. just in terms of like I think this world is just really weird to me, and I don't get it. Like the the culture that Sarah J. Maas wants us to again, like this is 300 pages into the book, and apparently Bryce is like the most infamous and hated woman in all of the city because she agreed to go out on a date with this werewolf man who died before she could actually get home, and the man died before they could ever go on a date together. And after she said she would go on a date with him, she was having sex in a bathroom stall with somebody else. And so apparently this makes her the most hated woman in all of the city. And this might have been mentioned at some point during the narrative, but it didn't really feel like that important until like 3 seconds ago when she was talking to the dead wolf's brother. And I was just kind of like, this is whack. I'm sorry. I also continue to not understand why we have like made up sports and this made up continent and this made up I don't know. I guess I think I said this in like a Goodreads update or one of my past lives, but part of me really wants to commend Sarah J. Maas for writing a urban fantasy or a fantasy with modern technologies and modern amenities, but still crafting this whole world. But I'm also just kind of like, it doesn't fit with the genre conventions to me, the way that it's crafted here and how modern we've made it. I don't know. I feel like if I'm imagining like a Cardi B or like a Megan Thee Stallion or like literally any celebrity that you could name existing in this world, I also don't really think that I vibe with like everything else that's going on with it. Like, I don't know. I think you could argue that J.K. Rowling did that, where you have like made up wizarding sports and things, and there was technically modern technology for the 1990s or whatever, but magic interfered with it, and so it wasn't a part of the wizarding world. But they existed alongside each other. But here, part of me is like, in a world with like fae and vampires and angels who are out here breeding with humans. I don't know. I don't know. Reed Redner, I guess, like his family, that's like a magic technology business. But none of the technology we've seen really seems to need magic. And I feel like just because of how long these societies have commingled and interacted, I wish that the magic had some kind of impact on the technology, because I don't see a purpose for all of these hundreds of years that these creatures have been commingling with people for them to really benefit from the technology. Like, I don't know. Some of the way that it's described feels like very much from like a human perspective, but that's all I have to say. I'm ready. The more you say, the less I want to read it. I want to say that I wouldn't actively discourage people from reading this. I would maybe actively discourage starting here, just because this is an 800-page book, and Sarah J. Maas has smaller starts to a series. With sequels that are out. Like, her other series are complete and done. And so I feel like starting with A Throne of Glass, knowing it was written, like a decade ago, or starting with ACOTAR and knowing that it's complete and you can move on, I think will work better than starting with Crescent City, which is 800 pages and the sequel is not out. You know what I mean? I don't like... I think that if you were on the fence about Crescent City and you didn't like pre-order it, or it wasn't on hold at your library and you were able to grab it before the world shut down, I wouldn't start with Crescent City, even though I think that it is very accessible in terms of, like, I'm having an issue with the world building, but I think that the world building, like, it's not bad. Like, it is very info-dumpy. I think you could really skip the entire first part of the book. You could start where it says like part 2 and keep going, because only thing in those first like 115 pages is a lot of info dumpy situations, and none of that is really important. Like everything in those first 115 pages is on like the inside jacket cover copy. Like I personally wasn't connecting to Bryce during those chapters, and like I said, you could really skip them. So I wouldn't start here, but I don't think it's bad. I think that I would just encourage someone to start with a series that she's finished and is objectively shorter. Like I think Akatar is still like 400, 500 pages maybe. But this is printed on literally Bible thin pages. Like for the first part of the book, I didn't really notice it. But when I was out on my walk today, I really noticed how thin these pages are. And when I realized that you really could chop out the first 100 pages and make this, well, my copy is already under 800 pages. It's like 797. But you could really make this a 600-page book and have normal thickness paper. But that's just me. I don't know. Maybe the American editions have normal paper, but this Bible paper with the sprayed edges is not it. So that's all I have to say about the little 60 pages I read this morning. I am ready to see what's happening because we are, like I said, we are in the thick of the investigation. So there is actually content worth getting to. So I'm ready to start our first sprint of the stream if everyone else is. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the timer and get that all situated. And I'm going to wish everyone, that's not what I want, this wire, there, no. There we are. Okay. I guess I should mute myself. Well, hello. Let's reset the timer, get rid of it. Let's chat for a second. Don't know if you're still here, but I hope you are. I hope you had a good sprint. I'm 4 pages into today's reading, so I read 44 pages. Not mad about it at all. I am mad about some stuff that went down, though. And hello, B. Happy you could make it. I don't know what you're reading, but I hope whatever you're reading is going well. I guess because I'm over halfway through the book now, I feel like I should probably not spoil as much as I did earlier in the week. But there was an attack like at the start of the sprint, and part of me was annoyed because our protagonist seemed to be surviving this attack, even though other people have not been as fortunate to survive. But it was addressed, and so I was like, okay, we're all in on it together, Miss Mass. You knew I was going to come for you, and you addressed it, so I was here for it. But then, towards the end of the sprint, some stuff went down, some things were revealed, and Bryce was out here. I don't think who Bryce's father is could be a spoiler because I guessed it so early on. I've already talked about it in some streams. But for some reason, even on page 450, whatever, no, I guess it would have been like 470, people in the novel still don't know who her father is. And I don't understand why. I don't get it. I don't understand why no other character gets to know who her... Oh, take it back. Obviously, there's a character who knows who her father is. And I guessed it since it was brought up that her father was an important person. I made the prediction, and then it was confirmed. But I don't understand why it's a secret, how it could be a secret. And then when she went to confront this man, I figured that it would be very obvious, but it's not. And we're still calling this other character her cousin when I know, and she knows, and the cousin knows that they're like, I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm confused by it. I don't see the purpose. The murderer, I think, was officially outed as like the red herring I thought it was going to be because it was too convenient for us to find out at page 400. That didn't seem like it would work. And we had a Prince of Hell be summoned. And I'm here for him. I don't think he's going to come back anytime soon. But between Hunt being insufferable, the other protagonist being Bryce's familial relation, the Prince of Hell is the only character that I can ship Bryce with. And I'm here for it. I would like that a lot. Thank you. I'm still and I like the Prince because he was out here telling Bryce to make the drop already, because 500 pages into this where her life is at risk, like every page she is out here surviving near-death experiences. And I'm like, girl, if you don't go ahead and go claim your immortality, like at this point, I feel like that's going to be like the ending scene is something going wrong with her drop, because they already alluded to the fact that things can go wrong and you don't come back up and like they don't know what happens. So I feel like that's how the book is going to end. She's going to make the drop and something bad is going to happen. But I also don't understand how this is more than a standalone at this point. Like, could you tell more stories in this world? Sure, you probably could, but where does it go from here? It's the same problem that I had with Lady Midnight being used as a supernatural murder mystery to kickstart the Dark Artifices. It's like, okay, this is cute, but like, where do we go from here? Like, what can we do with the players that you've given us? And even there were more subplots. And here, I don't know what Miss Mass is going to do. I have very little faith. But I also don't know how long the series is meant to be. Like, in my head, I think it's a duology, but I could be completely mistaken. But you are reading Ray Bearer by, I'm definitely not going to be able to pronounce that last name, Jordan Ifueko? Ifueko. I remember seeing you post about that on Twitter for sure. I think it was in your Instagram stories, but I wasn't sure if you had finished it or if you hadn't finished it. But I hope it's going better for you than Crescent City is for me, because I don't understand where Crescent City is going, what it's doing. I'm barely along for the ride. At this point, I just want people to know who Bryce's father is. If I can get nothing from the next 100 pages, I just want that to happen. Because between now and the end of the book, I really don't care who's killing these people, which sounds bad because now we've raised the death toll from I guess the death toll was already at 8 based on the first 100 pages. But now it's a good 12, 15 people are dead, which is a lot of people, but we don't really know any of them. And I think what's really frustrating is every other character, there's been 3 people who've survived this attack. And all three people we know for a fact are less powerful than one of the characters that didn't survive. So it's why is this person dead? Why? Okay, I'm super soft. World building is nice. Nothing crazy yet, though. Okay, good to know. I'll be eagerly anticipating your thoughts. I've been struggling with Crescent City too. I've been trying to continue to avoid reviews of the book, but I did scroll through yesterday just to see what my friends on Goodreads thoughts. And I didn't really read any of them besides my cousin's because I was I'm not going to remember what my cousin said, but you left a really nice lengthy review. And so I only read it was long, but I only read the parts that had nothing to do with Crescent City specifically and just Sarah J. Maas generally, because my cousin has read more of Sarah J. Maas than I have. And we had I don't know. This book is it's putting me through it. So I feel like her dad is the dude running around creating havoc. If her dad, well, I know who the dad is, but if that character is the one behind it, I think that would make sense somewhat, but also I would be really bored by that, I think. I don't know. I would have to see how Sarah J. Maas handles it. I think that it could make sense. I think that character could be doing those things, but I also feel, you know what? Maybe that's exactly what is happening. Maybe. Because that character is kind of really the only named antagonistic force that we have, aside from Hunt and his anger issues that I think they're supposed to be sexy, but I don't get it. When he was out here banging on the door of her workplace, he did that twice. I'm just kind of this isn't it. This isn't it, Chief. Not it. And then I still don't like that he is the bodyguard. Because I feel if she made the drop, then she wouldn't need a bodyguard. And so it just feels very contrived. I said this at the start of my stream. I personally would not recommend starting Sarah J. Maas with Crescent City. Not because I think Crescent City is a bad book or that it's I don't think it's objectively a bad book. I think that it's definitely enjoyable. I just think that it's 800 pages and the first 115, the first part of the book, you can skip. I promise you. You can go where, let me see. In my copy, I want to say part 2 starts on page 120. What is the truth? Let me not lie to the people. That's chapter 12. Maybe you can skip more of this book than I thought. Okay. The first 90 pages you can skip. If you just go straight to part 2, The Trench, not only will you get the version of Bryce Quillian that you're going to get for what I'm reading, like the rest of the book, but I feel like if you actually read the first 90 pages, the rest of the book doesn't really make any sense because you have Bryce out here investigating this missing antique item that's like a super important thing that she just doesn't find for 2 years. Her relationship to Danica is nice, but it ain't gonna get brought up again. Like, her motivation for helping Hunt in the investigation is she feels some kind of obligation to her friend. But it's like, homegirl, you went 2 years without doing anything. Like, you went 2 years not trying to avenge anybody. Like, you went 2 whole years. Like, now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe that you have this fire in you. Skip the first 90 pages, go straight to chapter 8 if that's what you want to start with. But I would not start with it just because, like, I think that it's not a good start. It's not a good starting place. I also felt this way. I've said this in a couple of streams. I think this is still a YA novel. Maybe when I saw the word cock on the page for the first time, so maybe that was what the differentiation was. The first 90 pages, there's lots of talk of like she's really on the hunt for some quality dick. She's out partying. There's like some drug use. Like, thematically, I can understand wanting to put it in the adult section, but I don't think the writing is there for the adult section. I don't think that there's any kind of underlining themes or thematical grandiosity. And it's not that I think that YA doesn't have that. I just don't think that someone should be paying an adult hardcover price for this. I think that this is still a well-known, respectable YA hardcover price. I think like Cassandra Clare's hardcovers are like $22, $25 instead of like the regular $18. And I think you could charge somebody $22 for this and not an adult $30 or whatever. I actually don't even know how much this is in the States because it was too expensive and I got it from Waterstones, but this isn't hardcover adult price to me. I don't think anyone likes this man. My cousin didn't like Hunt either. And I remember her discussion, she was like, I really hope that Cassandra Clare. I really hope that Sarah J. Maas like switches him out in the second book. And I really am hoping that when I get to the actual sex scene, because I still haven't gotten there yet, I got to a moment where I thought one was going to happen, and then they were interrupted. And then there was like a moment where Bryce was like fantasizing about it happening, and it didn't go anywhere. But I just don't understand the appeal, and I definitely am hoping the sequel gives us a new love interest. My hope is for, like I said, the Prince of Hell, Adidas. I hope he becomes our new love interest, because the other main male perspective is her relation. Like, they're related, and I'm not out here trying to ship no cousins. Not cousins. Yeah, start with ACOTAR. I haven't read it, but I hope that you enjoy it. I am definitely going to continue to advocate to skip the first 90 pages. I don't think the first 90 pages are all that crucial. I think that they feel disjointed in the larger context. I think you get a lot of world building there, but it's very info dumpy, and you continue to get world building. Like, Sarah J. Maas doesn't stop with it. I think that's another part of the problem. Which is good. Like, again, I commend her for bringing modernity to fantasy, but the way she's brought the modernity to fantasy doesn't work for me. I think this is another problem I have is, one sec, let me grab it today. I need to redo oh, that's where my lotion went. We're going to put on some lotion. Steel Crow Saga brings modernity to fantasy as well. There's it's not as modern as what was it? It's not as modern as Crescent City. It's definitely like a 1920s turn of the century for us, type aesthetics, type feel, but it works. It works with everything that's going on. With Crescent City, I feel that the technology, it doesn't, something about it isn't meshing. I also feel that it's just, maybe it's because I'm very familiar with, maybe because I'm very familiar with Western, things. And so, like, when you're using, like, pulling from Celtics and Norse and Christianity and melting it into, like, this weird world that's still modern, but it's on a completely unique continent, it just, I don't know. There's something that isn't coming through in translation for me, but other people seem to be really digging it. And I can't tell if she made that decision to so all of her books are in like the same universe. Like, is Crescent City some futuristic version of a world she created? I don't know. I'm not mass trash, so I feel like that's the only reason I can understand not wanting to put it in a modern, like, I feel like you could even like make up a city still and I don't know. There's just something about the world construction that I don't think is on par with Steel Crow Saga, which I think is worth the $27 that Del Rey asks you to pay. And if you want adult high fantasy that has modern elements, this is good. It's great. I love it. It's also queer. There are tons of queer characters in Steel Crow Saga, and when I tell you I feel so baited by Danica and Bryce, I feel never going to get over that one. Never going to get over that bait and switch. I didn't finish Prior of the Orange Tree, but so I guess for me, it doesn't feel as pointless, but I wouldn't be surprised if other people felt that way. I also didn't really, well, I guess that one was more complicated. There was a lot going on there. That one, it can stay. And Samantha Shams, all of her books are in the adult section, I think. But I think this one should really just be over with the rest of Sarah J. Maas's books on the YA shelf. Yes, I'm so happy to see people reading Steel Crow Saga. It was a sleeper hit. Shout out to the readathon that people were hosting, because I think that did a lot to bring people to it. I still don't like when people say it's like Pokemon. I'm like, it's not, but if people are reading it, that's all I care about. But I feel like I've talked enough, and I have lotion on, so my hands are no longer grossly dry, looking super ashy. And I think I'm ready to do another sprint, because I am on today's pages, and I have to get to page 680 today to finish it by tomorrow, which we all know is not going to happen. Like, we all know I'm not getting to page 680 today, but I would like to get close so that I actually can finish it tomorrow and not have to stream on Saturday to finish it. Because I'm finishing this book with you guys. I'm not going to finish it without you. I started it. We've been on this journey several hours together. It only feels right. So let's pull up the timer. I don't know why I did every time. Doing it wrong. Every time. Mute the mic. Hello. Hearing there was like Pokemon made me want to read it, just seeing the cultural connotations made it so much more. Yeah, I liked the cultural aspects of Steel Curve Saga. I don't know where the Pokemon vibes people say they get are coming from, but as long as people are reading that one, I'm happy for them. Hello, happy you could make it. Hopefully you got some reading done during the sprint. I read it in 3 days. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for the second one to come out. Seeing how there's a war going on, I can't wait to see how Bryce gets involved. It gives me Throne of Glass vibes. Is there a war going on? Like, I think that Crescent City gives me there's a war going on vibes the same way the selection gave me there's a war going on vibes. And don't get me wrong, I fucked heavily with the selection. But by the time, what's the second one, the Elites? Is that, I don't know. I never finished the series because it was like, so yeah, like I understand that like in theory there's like a human rebellion going on during all of this time. But I think the human rebellion is stupid. I don't really care about it at all. I said this in yesterday's stream, but like fantasy stories where the conflict is essentially like genocide, like doesn't like they don't pull me in. And that's what the human conflict is. Like the humans want to kill all of the supernatural creatures. The supernatural creatures want to kill the humans. And it's like, this isn't a fun story for me. Like, it's not interesting. I don't care. I don't pick up a book going, yes, genocide, serve it. Like, it's just, okay, congrats. Basic plotline is basic. But I also don't feel like an overarching series plotline is really being sown here. And I think that if the war is going to be the focus of this of the series, then it's going to have to be like a late third act thing, and I don't care about that. I think that's very lazy. I think it's very lazy to like set up your series at the end of the first book and have that really not be important at all to the events of the first one. Like, again, I will compare, like, I think that Crescent City does like the worst parts of a lot of different things. Like, it does the worst parts of Lady Midnight with this murder mystery. It does the worst parts of Steel Curve Saga, like it does Steel Curve Saga, but worse with the fantasy modernity. Like, it's just, I don't feel like Crescent City has its own identity, even though it is very clear that a lot of thought went into it. It's very clear that Sarah J. Maas tried a lot. I just don't, it's just not connecting for me. I think it's just a very average book that does a lot of things that a lot of other things have done better. And I think that Sarah J. Maas has probably done better. I can't speak to that because I've only ever read the first Throne of Glass. But I don't think this is her best work. Like, I refuse to believe that someone who is this beloved in the community for whatever reasons, this is the best example of her doing her things well. Like, I can't get on board with that because I think this is very mediocre. And I understand that we out here hyping up mediocrity a lot, but I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. As for what I read, I got to page 530 something, I want to say. Yes, I stopped on page 542 because my good girl Danica keeps getting dragged through it. Like, I started off this book with like the vague, okay. So I read the summary of the book, right? Like the cover copy when the cover was revealed like a year ago. And I was like, I like that cover. And then I told myself, I'm not going to rush out and buy the book. I'm not going to do that. And then, I got a little bit of money and I was like, you know what? I'm already ordering Chain of Gold. Let's just get this edition too. It's pretty. Let's make it happen. And so I got it. And by the time it got to me, I hadn't read the summary of what happens in this book in like a year. So I'm reading it, and my good girl Danica just gets immediately fucked over. And I'm like, okay, well, I chose the wrong character to support and get attached to. That was a choice that I made, and now I'm suffering with the consequences. And here I am, 400 pages later, still suffering with the choices that I made 100 pages ago to support this woman. So I think that the real moral of the story is do not trust characters that I get attached to. I made the problem. It also, I think, does The Cruel Prince, but worse. And The Cruel Prince was already very suspect. Anyway, so my good girl Danica, I feel, just deserves so much better. But I also feel like even though Danica hasn't been in the story for 400 pages, she is still the most developed character, the most interesting character, the character that keeps feeding, even though she's getting fucked over. I think that that's a real issue that Sarah J. Maas needs to deal with, and I'm hoping we'll deal with. But I also feel like Mr. Reed Redner is about to come back up in this novel out of nowhere, and I really don't think I'm going to appreciate that being a situation that happens. What was I doing? Yeah, I've heard that she's actually regressed with Crescent City. I mean, like I said, I've only ever read her debut, and I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was a solid time. I had a fun, enjoyable time reading Miss Throne of Glass. Miss Selena, was she an underdeveloped character? Sure, maybe, probably, definitely so. But I enjoyed my time with her. I was like, thank you for this tournament. Thank you for this no energy having tournament descriptions. But I had a fun time. I had a fun time reading it. And I'm not really having a fun time here. I'm having an interesting time, which is better than a bad time. I will take an interesting time over a bad time. I had a bad time reading Docile, but I also read Docile a lot faster. To be fair, it's also contemporary adjacent, it's science fiction. So, you know, apples and oranges, but I will take an interesting time over a bad time. I picked up at Barnes & Noble, read a random page, and the writing was bad. I think I saw... Okay, this I have seen people talk about. I have seen people talk about this whole alpha hole situation and how, I think one reader, I forget who it was, I think they were also similarly annoyed with it. And they were talking about how they were reading the book and they thought that alpha hole was like an accepted word in this world. What it really was, and I thought this was explained. I said you could skip the first 90 pages, but this was kind of explained in the first 90 pages. It was an in-joke between Bryce and Danica about how alpha males in this world are all assholes, and they were just shortening it, and it was their word, and they had it, and it was connected them. And Bryce continues to use it. I don't think it appears as often as this person thought that it did, but I also think it bothered this reader more than it bothers me. I don't care when people... I take it back. Sometimes I care about like references to things. Sometimes, like, there's a whole bunch of words that are used a lot here. Like, we have to suffer through God's damn it, because, like, of course we do. We have hell that's capitalized with one L, because of course we do. Like, those things I notice more than I notice Bryce saying alpha hole. But because I was just saying, I fucks with my girl Danica, and I know that that's what that is, it gives me a piece of her. And so it didn't bother me. I felt that it had an in-world explanation. It made sense for other characters to be like, what the fuck are you talking about, an alpha hole? Because it's not like a word thing, but like, I think that an in-joke in friend groups is an accepted community practice. Like, I think we can all understand that exists in the world. And so it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. I think that having to read like males and females bothers me more, just because it just doesn't make sense to me sometimes. I'm just kind of like, this is very... What are we doing with mass? Like, what are we doing? But again, it's like an accepted mass trope. Like, I know I went in knowing she was going to say males and females like every third word. So like it's hard for me to be annoyed when I know that's what is going to happen. So I get that the alpha hole situation isn't for everybody, but as far as I'm concerned, that was the least of the book's issue. I also I don't know. I don't know. It's not. I think that Bryce has a lot of issues that we could talk about. We could talk about again, like her being in mortal danger every 3 seconds and refusing to do the thing that could make her immortal because like she's doing the Bella thing, where her love. This is another thing. Like I feel like I was baited with this, and I understand again that you can have really close platonic same gender friendships, like just because Danica and Bryce are super close friends doesn't mean they were fucking. I think that they should have been. I think that would have been the story I would have wanted to read about. I don't think Miss Mass has the range, but in my heart, I feel like that's canon. I feel like every time we get discussions of Bryce and Danica's friendship, I'm like, that's gay. Like that's super gay. Like, I'm sorry, no heterosexual explanation for this friendship. But I feel, where was I even going? I got so sidetracked there. This is why I shouldn't do lives. It'll come back to me at some point. It'll circle back around. But yeah, the alpha situation, least of my concerns. Bryce and Danica should have been gay. Forever sad that we were robbed. Forever sad that Sarah J. Maas doesn't have the range. I would love to know what people in the chat are reading, though. What are you guys picking up during the stream? It doesn't have to just be me talking about Crescent City. The odds of me having read what you're reading in the chat are very slim. They are very slim because I'm the booktuber who routinely reads super hyped things. I very rarely step out of the super hyped zone and pick up things that are less hyped. But you never know. I might have something to say about something that you're reading. We won't know unless you share it. But whatever it is you're reading, whether you're watching this live when it happens or like later on to get some sprinting in, I hope that it's going well for you. I hope that you are actually enjoying what you're reading completely, unlike me, who is just enjoying bits and pieces. Because would it really be 2020, though, if I was enjoying the whole thing? I don't think I've wholeheartedly enjoyed every aspect of a book that I've read this year so far. Okay, still reading Maybe in Another Life, ready to finish it. I wish you luck with that. Still haven't read that. But again, yeah, wishing you luck. A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. Never going to read V.E. Schwab. I think that she gets really pretty covers. I think the covers of her books are aesthetically pleasing, but none of her premises sound interesting to me. But I've heard good things about that series. I don't know if there's like positive things to be said about A Gathering of Shadows, because I'm that person who also rarely watches independent reviews of books I'm never going to read. So I just hear about it in like a wrap up or in things. But I've heard good things about the series, and I hope that you're, like I said, I hope you're enjoying it. I think that V. Schwab was just one of those authors that was on Twitter trying to like justify some like creepy age gap that's in apparently one of her stories. And I was just like, I'm not here for it. But I wish you the best. Like I said, she has really pretty covers. I know people are really excited about her new release. It's like what is it? The Life of Addie LaRue or something. It just gives me the Age of Adeline vibes. And if I wanted Age of Adeline vibes, I would just go watch Age of Adeline. And I didn't watch it, and I'm not going to read the book. Still bored with Interview. How far are you in Interview? I feel like you've been slugging through this book longer than I've been slugging through Crescent City. So are you at least like halfway through? Like 3/4 of the way through? I'm sorry that it's just okay. Maybe the ending will be worth it. I've never read it. I've never seen the movie, but I'm hoping that it'll pay off for you, or at least I don't know if you plan on continuing with the series. But I feel like that's a pretty extensive world, so like maybe one of them will be better. I don't know. It's actually pretty boring right now. Oh, sorry, but hoping it'll pick up. I gave the first one 4.5 stars. That's not a bad rating. I I feel like this is probably the last little mini discussion before we jump into the next sprint. But I need to understand like how people, because I don't use half stars. I don't understand the half star system. So I would like to know, like, how do you? Okay, like I don't understand. Like, how do you differentiate between like a 4 and a 4.5, and like a 4.5 and a 5? Because I just use the little Goodreads hover system, which is why I don't think Goodreads is ever going to give us half stars, because they've defined every star. Like each star on Goodreads, like if you hover over it, it has like a definite meaning. And I don't think that they would introduce half stars because it's like 1 star on Goodreads is you did not like the book. 2 stars was like it's okay. 3 stars is you liked it. 4 stars is you really liked it, and 5 stars is you loved it. To me, that's what I need. Basic categories. And I don't understand like how do you define something between like and really like, or really like and love it? Like there's no gray space there for me. So I personally don't understand the half star system. So, and I haven't seen anybody really be able to define, like, I don't know. I think people who use the half stars maybe don't define the stars the way that I do or that Goodreads does, because I don't, there's no gray space there for me. I don't know. I feel like I read things very analytically, but I feel like if you're using a half star, it just feels more analytical to me. Like you were out here doing some sleuthing, because I'm just like, we're just going to give it a definite, like, we ain't playing. Okay, that's not too far. It's like, what, 120 pages left? That's less than I'm supposed to read today. I'm not going to read that many pages, but it's just that Anne Rice's writing is so extra. The story is interesting, and I'm attached to these characters, but I think I could say the same. Okay, I'm not attached to the characters. The story is not interesting. But I also think that Sarah J. Maas has this problem. I think that Sarah J. Maas, like there are scenes in this book that I don't think are necessary, or that I can tell that this scene was only written to like make me care about the characters, because they don't fit. Like I just had to read a scene where Hunt came into Bryce's apartment covered in who knows what blood, and like she was bathing him, and I'm like, you've had an adversarial relationship with this man for like God knows how many pages, and now you're like cleaning up random people's blood from his. It was not the moment for that scene, Sarah J. Maas, but it was there. The MC Louis, I'm assuming it's Louis because I feel like that's how Anne Rice would want it pronounced, because I feel like she's low-key pretentious, is an angsty boy. He has so many feelings that we have to talk through and dream about. Oh, yeah, I'm not trying to read dream sequences, but that book is really only 342 pages. I don't know why, but I think when I imagine Interview with a Vampire, I imagine a much longer book. So I don't know. I'm never gonna read them. I wish her luck. I have been tempted a time or two to pick up some of Christopher Rice's work, because I know that he's gay, and I think he has some like gay stories out there. But then I've heard questionable reviews of his work, so I'm probably gonna stay away from the Rice family in general. But I might check out the show that they're working on about her books. I might watch that, but I don't think I'm ever going to read anything. 4.5 means it was very close to 5 stars, but something minor was missing. See, I just give it a 4. But maybe I'm just harsher. Like, if something was missing, then I'm not gonna like, I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, it is sometimes I struggle to like give it a star rating, but I don't think I ever really round up. I think that I am far less generous because I want people to know that I had issues. Like those issues were important, even when I'm petty. Like I gave the best laid plans. I'm pretty sure I gave it 4 stars, even though I had a 5-star reading experience because I was just very uncomfortable. It was very like for me personally as the reader. I think that an actual teenager reading the book could get through that and have all those lovely YA sex scenes. But I was like, this is 17-year-old ass. I don't need to imagine no 17-year-old ass. And I don't know any 18-year-old out here trying to date no 24-year-old and it'd be okay. But then I do have to admit, after I finished reading the best laid plans, where this 24-year-old was talking to this freshly 18-year-old, I got in the car to like go take my cousin to his friend's house. And he was talking with his other 17-year-old friend about getting someone who was like 25 to go to prom with him. And I was like, maybe I was too harsh on the best laid plans. Like maybe I am out of touch. But then I was like, I'm 25. Like I'm not going out. No, I'm not. It's not happening. You in high school? It's not happening. So I felt justified sticking to my 4 stars. But I do think that rounding up is a pretty common thing that people do. I have a massive. Okay, that makes sense why it's so short. I have nothing against mass markets for a really long time. That's the preferred version, I guess, I bought back when I was very price conscientious. And it was like, it's the same book. Now I just don't buy them, but that makes sense. So I have talked long enough, and I left the story in a pretty interesting spot. So I'm ready to do another sprint. I might do 2 other sprints today, not just do 3, because I do kind of want to get to where I need to get to. So this is not going to be the last sprint. We'll do 2 more. So I'm going to mute myself. We're going to bring the timer back, and I'll check in with you guys at the end of the sprint. Y'all, we've done 2 of these. We understand how it happens. I am annoyed. I am very annoyed. Very annoyed. Okay. To answer your question, I'm on page 590. I just started chapter 64. The book is open. I don't know why I don't ever flip back. Yes, 64. So I'm annoyed for a couple of reasons. The main reason is I think I'm finally gonna get this sex scene. Finally, after 590 pages. It's the only thing this girl has wanted for 590 pages is quality dick. Think she's about to get it. Wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong. Also, since you're here, I will definitely not go into spoilers. I don't want to ruin anything. But I'm very annoyed with some reveals that just took place. I don't like it. I don't support it. These are not decisions I would have made. Very annoyed. So I would love to know how the sprint went for everyone else, because I don't have anything positive to say about anything that I just had to read about. At all. Nothing positive just happened in my experiences. We had a stupid punishment scene. We had a scene where, again, Hunt was out here doing the most with his stupid temper. I mean, if you are enjoying the first 15 chapters and you're having a good time and you like Hunt, I think you've met Hunt by now. I don't remember how far he is into the book. If you're liking Hunt, you're liking Bryce, you're having a good time. I don't think anything that I read is like bad for people who liked it. I don't think that it was terrible for people who were enjoying the story, but things happened that just that's not what I wanted. I think what bothers me about this Hunt and Bryce relationship, if we can call it that, their dynamic together, is that it just pales in comparison to what Danica and Bryce could have been. Could have had it all so much. And it's like Sarah J. Maas continues to feed me things, and I'm like, that's a much better story. That's a much better dynamic. And I don't get it. I don't get to have it. And it's like, why? Why am I suffering? But whatever. Good for Bryce. A lot of filler content for me. Bored of Hunt, just met Bryce, and he is following her around. Okay. I remember that. That was weird. I miss I didn't like Connor. I think Connor is exactly the way Hunt is. I think that's why I thought it was so strange for me when Bryce was like, "Oh, he's a wolf. They're all the wolves." I'm like, Hunt is doing the same shit, and he's an angel. So that's just what's happening in the city. Like, there's only all of the male love interests have the same personality in this book. I think that, well, I guess Reed, I said this earlier in a stream like a couple days ago, that Reed was just like, he wasn't paying attention to Bryce. Like, he was just kind of there to fuck her and like exist. I think he's about to come back into the narrative. I would hope so, based on what is happening. But I felt that way before this most recent development. I guess he was the one that was, I guess, the least assertive of her love interests in this book. But Connor and Hunt both have kind of like this weird territorial anger issue shit they need to work on. They both need to be seeing a therapist. This is modernity. We got technology. We have cell phones. I'm sure there's a therapist office in Crescent City they can go. They need to talk to them. I mean, I guess not Connor. Connor's kind of out of luck on that one. But Hunt, he could really do with some therapy. I also think what bothers me about the Danica Bryce relationship is that Hunt has a previous relationship that he won't shut up about. And we know that that relationship was romantic. And he has repeatedly, at least on 2 different occasions, compared that romantic love that he had for that other person to how Bryce and Danica felt. I'm never going to get over it. I'm never going to get over what I could have had. And so even though I'm really happy that Bryce is about to get some dick because she's been wanting some quality dick from like the very first time we met her. The very first time we met her, she was complaining that Reed's dick game was weak. I'm also just not invested in it. Like I'm happy for her as a character because I feel like this has really been her central conflict, is that she didn't really have any quality sex in her life. So I'm happy that it looks like she's about to get that. But as for the investigation that's going on, couldn't care less, even though things are getting more interesting. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of mess that's happening in Carson City that I'm personally not here for. But I also, once again, unsurprisingly, seem to be in the minority. Although I do know that my honest sister Jada also had some issues with it. So I know I'm not totally alone. I do think that people had some issues with this book from differing perspectives, but I don't know. I don't think, again, it's not the worst book I've ever read. It won't wind up on my worst. Well, might be too soon to call, but if it was on my like worst books of 2020, I feel like it would only be because of the quarantine situation. I haven't actually I've only read like 30 something books this year. So it would only be on the list because I haven't, compared to like the okay things and the really good things I've read. It would be like, well, it's like number 10, so it's not the, like, you know what I mean? It'd be that kind of a thing if it were to wind up on the list. But I don't know. I still don't have any kind of hope for where this could go as a series. I'm seeing what the other commenter earlier said about the war going on. I can see that coming into shape again. Again, we haven't gotten that really until page 590. And the book is only like a little over 700 pages. Okay, take it back. It's like 797. That's way over 700. But I don't know. I feel like that's really late in the game to be setting up a story arc for the series. I feel like I would have appreciated some of those seeds being sown earlier. And I don't count anything that happened in the first 90 pages, because I think the first 90 pages could have been condensed into like a 10-page prologue, because that's what it was anyway. It was a prologue, and that's what it... I don't understand how Sarah J. Maas got away with like a 7 chapters of build up to the actual story. I think that's actually the craziest. Especially when you're sitting here on like you're on YouTube watching all of these AuthorTube videos giving advice to people. And I know that Sarah J. Maas is not your typical author, but I think it's crazy that you would allow someone to publish a book with 7 chapters of prologue. Like 7 chapters worth. Like that's... So how's everyone else's reading going? Please, I need happier things to think about before we go into the last sprint here in a couple of minutes. I want to do one more today because I'm at page 590 and I need to get to page 640 today. I think I said 680 earlier. I only need to get to page 640 to actually be on track to finish this book tomorrow. So that's exciting. I was starting to think I was not going to be on track to finish it tomorrow, and then I would have to do a stream on Saturday. But I think if we just do like 4 or 5 sprints tomorrow, that I'll be able to get it done. And then I'll have all weekend to film and edit a concise review, so I don't have people sitting through like 10 hours of these live streams where I work my way through how I felt about the book. There's a lot of drama, but I don't care about the characters. I haven't read your book, so I'm happy there's at least drama. That's good for me. Have I talked about how the Black characters are described? I think there was like a fawn that was a Black character. I want to say it was Juniper. Juniper's the fawn, I think. they haven't appeared very often. And so I didn't really care. I feel like when I was reading earlier, I want to say that Hunt was described as having brown skin. I want to believe that. I know that some people have taken Bryce and like claimed her as a person of color, which if you want to dig through my tweets and if you want to do that, you are more than welcome to. Because when the cover was revealed, I want to say like a year ago or whatever, I was like, homegirl looks mixed race. I have the cover up here. I guess I could just grab it. I don't know what it is about her, but I felt like she wasn't completely white. And then I started reading the book, and she was described as having golden skin. And when a character is named like Bryce, it gave me white people vibes. And so I was like, you have white people vibes as a name. You're only golden skinned, like you're tan. Sarah J. Maas isn't committing to brown. So I was like, you're just white. Like, if Latinx readers want to claim her, go for it. If there are like light-skinned people out here wanting to claim her, go for it. But when an author commits to such ambiguous terms as golden skin and tan, they're white. Like they're white. It's the same thing that happened with Ms. Katniss Everdeen and her olive skin and her golden tan from being out in the sun hunting, and she white. So I think only Juniper, the half fawn character, was black. And I think I mentioned it in one of the streams, but she's been such a non-entity in this story that I don't have anything to say. And again, I think that Hunt was described as having brown skin. And he has major anger issues. And again, he needs some therapy. So I'm not super invested in him being me. I'm not super invested in him being the representation that Sarah J. Maas is giving us. But I also just have zero expectations for white people to give me quality like any diverse representation when it comes to color and ethnicity if they're writing the book alone. I think that if you're a white person, you have like a co-author who is like a person of color, then I might have some hope for you. Like Becky Albertalli, she's Jewish. But when she wrote like What If It's Us, and she had to write some aspects of Arthur's characters and not Arthur, Ben. Ben was the Puerto Rican character there. Like when she was writing Ben in her Arthur chapters, I was like, well, Adam Severo signed off on this. I'm not Puerto Rican. I'm not going to critique it. Same thing with Yes, No, Maybe So. I'm like, I'm not that I'm not that ethnicity. I'm not going to critique it. But here, Sarah J. Maas is like writing alone, and all of all the characters are bland to me. I'm really only here for Danica, and I've said this earlier, but Danica is the only character who's consistently getting growth and consistently getting complexity added to her. I feel like Bryce is very stagnant. I feel like Bryce's relationship with Hunt has been very stagnant, even though we've had a lot of scenes that's meant to like deepen their connection and show how attracted to each other they are. But I'm like, my girl Bryce has just been horny for 400 pages. Like, that don't mean she's in love with the man. You're not going to convince me. You're not going to convince me, Sarah, that she loves this man. It's not going to happen. I'm still convinced that she has better chemistry with the Prince of Hell, who I don't even think was described. He might have been. I think he was blonde, so I'm assuming he was also white, which, whatever. He could be a person of color. There's a lot of characters in this that could be persons of color. I don't think that they are, aside from, like I said, Juniper, I think it was. Or it might have been the Falcon, the Frey.
Right here?
Yeah.
Are you on?
Sorry about that. So there could be characters of color in this, but I don't think any of them have been super problematic. I don't know. Again, I think there might have been something about the fawn that I thought was weird, but in how that person was written, how everyone is written, they all seem to be the same. So I didn't really have any kind of issues with it. So that's where I am. That's where I am on it. I do look forward to seeing how other people have interpreted what is going on, but that's just my take on it. Okay. Okay. Definitely thought I hit the wrong button there for a second. Well, if there's nothing else that anyone wants to ask, am I missing something? No. Okay. So I talked about the drama. We have that discussion. I'm happy that there's drama, but I'm sad that you don't care about the characters. So if that's everything, I'm ready to do the last sprint of the stream, and so I'm gonna get that ready because I'm all about myself. These are very self-serving. They just also happen to be nicely available to the public. So I'll see you guys after the stream, after this sprint, and I wish you luck and good things to happen. Okay, so normally I would love to stick around and chat and have a lovely post-sprint conversation, but even in quarantine, apparently there is stuff that has to get done. So just a quick update on what I read. I managed to finish today's pages. It is the first time since I started this buddy read that I did that. I'm on page 662, I want to say. Yes, page 662, the start of chapter 74. The secret I've been waiting to be revealed to the characters in the book that we've known since page like 20 has finally been revealed. It was revealed in a stupid situation. It was dumb, but it's been revealed. I'm happy that it was revealed. I'm excited to finish this with you guys tomorrow. I hope that you all had a lovely end to the stream, to the sprinting. I hope that you were able to make some lovely progress. And as always, I hope that you are enjoying what you're reading. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I hope that you were pretty close to finishing yours. So I hope that you were able to get some more done. It definitely feels good on my end. I don't have to feel like I'm going to need to read later on tonight. I might, just because I don't know how much I'll be able to read on this. Like tomorrow's stream, I'm finishing the book. So that'll be what we're gonna do. We'll sprint until then. But I'm gonna go. I'll be on Twitter if you guys need to talk. You can find me there. But I'll be on the stream tomorrow, same time, roughly noon Pacific time. But yeah, I gotta go. And again.